Welcome to Mercy's Designs. My name is Mercy and I sell Stampin' Up! Products. In today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how I made this beautiful card using a brand new set called Breathtaking Bouquet. So I just got this recently at On Stage, as you can see. I had a fabulous time and I posted many videos that I took of demonstrations, so be sure to check those out. So I'm not an expert at watercoloring by any means, but I kind of thought, oh, wouldn't it be fun just to do a watercolor scene here with this background stamp to just make different images pop. So that's what I did, but I kind of feel like this green is taking over a little, so we're going to try to go a little lighter on that. All right, so first thing we're going to do is doing some fake Stamparatus stamping work, and the reason why I say fake is because I don't want to take the time to emboss. It's going to take a very long time. So this is a piece of the old watercolor paper, and it's cut at 4.5, I believe, by 6, and I suggest run your embossing buddy over it, and then with your Versamark, ink up here. I don't want to make this slide. Ink up your stamp really, really well with your Versamark, and then push down really hard in all the areas. It's a big stamp. This is going to be a lot better though using the Stamparatus than the acrylic block. I think it's a lot easier. So, and then I use the copper embossing powder. My example, I use gold, but this time we're going to do the copper. So I'm going to set that aside. And you can see this is one of the placemats from On Stage. Very cool. And so let's get started. So here is the picture. And what I want to do is I want to work with my pigment sprinkles like they're ink. So here they are. I'm going to use 4 colors. So I already sprinkled some in here, but we're going to work on watering it down. So I have a container here all ready to go, and I'm going to be using rubbing alcohol. So I don't know, most people probably use water, but you can use rubbing alcohol. And the other thing someone taught me is to put the lid beside the color, because if you look at this, this looks like yellow if you just looked at the bottle, not the letter, you know, what is written on it. So that's my little tip there. And right now, I have rubbing alcohol in the syringe, so I'm just going to go ahead and add a little bit. Ooh, those two kind of mix, the Mango Melody. That'll be interesting. Fortunately, those actually blend pretty well. So I'm just adding, now I want the green a lot lighter this time, so I'm adding quite a bit of the rubbing alcohol. And I'm going to get a scrap paper, and I'm going to start mixing. So I'm just going to mix this up really well, and that I'm going to test out here. It's not really a great example on regular paper, but I'm just trying to clean this up. And the other thing is, one of these reservoirs, I'm just going to add some plain, just so I can make sure my brush is really clean between uses. So the purple, that's looking pretty good. I think that'll be a good shade. And I'm going to mix up my pink, and that's very bright coral. I think I'll add just a teeny bit more. My rubbing alcohol. It's a lot, you have a lot better control if you use like a syringe that you got from the pharmacy. Then, wow, it's like a really bright coral. It's really pretty, but very intense. So you can see I'm getting out a little bit here, but I'm okay about it being pretty intense. Yeah, that's also pretty intense. What I do want to make sure is my green is much weaker this time. So that's the one I'm going to water down a little further too. Okay, so we are now ready to roll. This is an aqua painter, by the way. So I'm going to set this up here, and we're going to bring in my finished embossed flower. So what I'm going to start off doing is coloring the flowers. Now, I will speed this part up so you don't have to watch too much. But basically I'm doing flowers, and then I'm going to add the background with that light green. So sit back and relax. I'm going to spray it first with rubbing alcohol just so the colors blend a little easier. So here is my kind of finished coloring, and it's not perfect, and I did get one like crystal here of the green, but it's supposed to be just kind of a loose version of watercoloring. Watercoloring isn't supposed to be super neat and exact, in my opinion. So that's my coloring there, and what I suggest you do is lay it on a clean piece of printer paper and put your block over top of it, and that will help let it dry slowly. And the final part of drying you can do once it's pretty much stiff. That way you get less warping. And this is the one I did earlier, and I really loved the intensity of this pink here. I added extra color, kind of like I did with the purple, and that turned out beautifully. The purple I could come back, but it's pretty intense right here. So I cut this down. I wanted to also mention that I cut this down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 so that it will layer. And I wanted this to be, and you can see I got a really light green here. My example, what I just did, was a little darker than I wanted, but still much lighter than this one, because I feel like this one it takes over too much. So now it's just time to assemble and do a little stamping for the sentiments. So I'm going to be using Timeless Tulips sentiments and a few of the stamps from Painted Poppies. These are brand new sets, and I got them at Onstage Local, I should say, because I did not go to Germany. Thank you very much. So I'm bringing a scratch paper here because I want to preserve this paper. Call me silly, I know. It is a problem, I realize. So for the label, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to, first of all, stamp a little the leaf. So I'm getting my Granny Apple Green here, and I'm going to stamp off because I just don't want it that intense. Then I'm going to just stamp here. The next thing I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and stamp the Sentiment, which is again from the Tulip, Timeless Tulip. So this one a Get Well Soon. The other one I did is a Sympathy, and I'm trying to make this straight. Here we go. And I have Gorgeous Grape here. So then I want to bring in a little Daffodil Delight. I don't want quite as intense as the Mango Melody. So, and I also am going to stamp off. And this is a little speckled stamp that came with painted poppies. So I'm just going to do a little stamping off, and it will be a little less intense. I think I didn't stamp off there, oh well. But you can see it kind of incorporates all those colors, which are beautiful. So now that we did that part, the last thing I want to do is do the stamping for inside the card. So I'm going to bring in my cardstock here. And what I want to do here is I'm going to go ahead and just stamp with the Granny Apple Green this gorgeous little flower. This is a poppy, but it's all floral, and there I kind of got off a little, so I'm just gonna flip it. That's why we have two sides, right? Okay, yeah, I want that little bud. I did not want to omit that. Okay, so then we're going to just stamp inside, and the greeting I have for this one is called What a Beautiful Difference a Single Life Makes. And I think that's actually pretty, it's like an encouraging statement for someone who's like maybe going through a difficult time with their health. So I am thinking about sending this to my father, who did have surgery in October and had a pretty rough fall. So I want to encourage him. This is the Light Daffodil Delight, and all I'm going to do is just add a few highlights here. Just now, it works better to color with the Memento, but a little dabbing here and there isn't going to hurt anything with a regular stamp. So this is the light Granny Apple Green, and for this leaf I'm just going to add a little color right here. So I'm not being super careful to get every bit, because I heard, and I agree with this, don't be afraid to leave a little white when you're coloring. All right, so now that we got that stamped, I will layer this with this. Oh, sorry, I dropped my blend. Sorry for the racket. And I wanted to also talk about the ribbon. So here is my ribbon. This is Crumb Cake, and my upline taught me this little trick. Just tie it around a block, and this is pretty ingenious. Then cut it, and cut it all the way, okay? Don't do it like that. That's kind of pathetic. All right, so that is an E block I used, and that will give you plenty of space. And then you're going to have a faux bow here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add this. Just decide kind of where you want this. I kind of want this, I'm going to put this a little higher because I love that, and over a little. So this one's going to be more centered, whereas my other one was more lower. So I'm just bringing in some Scotch tape here. And I'm just going to tape it to the back like that. And I should check to make sure that, you know, yeah, that'll be fine. Of course, it will have a layer too. So then I'm going to just add that like that. So that's pretty cool. So if you have a paper that's really warped, and when you're watercoloring, it will definitely be warped. Felt like this was a little crooked here. There's the perfectionist in me. You can pop it up with dimensionals, and that will somewhat help with the warping aspect. So you don't, oh, that came loose. I'm gonna have to do a little better job there. Okay, I'll just reinforce that just to make sure, because I kind of messed with it. All right, so again, what I was saying is if you use some dimensionals and pop it up, I feel like it makes it less of an issue, the warping. So you might want to try that. I kind of hate warping, but watercoloring, when you're dealing with water, or in my case, rubbing alcohol, you will have warping. So I just have to weigh the pros and cons. And for this one, I think it's really, it looks really pretty with the having the watercoloring. So here, I'm just gonna go ahead and adhere this to my crumb cake base. And you can kind of see that it kind of pops it up a little, and then the card itself isn't warping as badly. It's still warping, trust me, it's definitely still warping. Okay, so here we're just gonna add a little glue. And I added a little much, so I'm just going to dab it off on some scrap paper off camera. You can always do that if you, it's better than having it ooze. Just dab it onto some scratch paper or a scrap. Okay, so the next part is I'm going to add a few dimensionals. So I'm just going to kind of create a little bit of a bridge here. Let's see. Yeah, this little piece will work. Okay. And we will have this card assembled in no time. So here we go. Isn't that pretty? Get well soon. And I feel like now the card is a little crooked, but too late now, right? This ribbon. Oh well. Okay, so there is my card. So the final thing is to add this, and we're going to go, I'll just put this in for now. You don't need to see me glue that. And I'm gonna add a few rhinestones because a little bling is always fun. I kind of feel like the rhinestones are a little better than pearls for a more masculine card. But then again, this card does not fit as a masculine card. But my dad is very understanding, and he understands things come from the heart. And sometimes making a card masculine is a little bit challenging. So I think he will be fine with this. So I'm just going to add some to these purple, some rhinestones. I think that will be really set it off. Isn't that cute? All right, so thank you so much for watching. Again, this background stamp is called Breathtaking Bouquet, and it will be in the mini catalog in 2020. This is a sneak peek, and I really hope you enjoyed this. I'll bring in my original card, and I think most people would agree the little less intense green is probably better because this kind of takes over too much. So I'm just going to take this away. If you have any stamping needs, please email me at mewants3@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to help you place an order with the host code. Thanks again for watching, and happy stamping.